This diagram on the whiteboard is a quick guide to the masculine psyche. It's based on the work of Dr. Robert Moore and his creation of the King Warrior Magician Lover system of masculine psychology. This chart captures his work, but also includes some of my own interpretations and terms. The first thing to notice is that it's split into 4 quadrants, or 4 states of mind. Unlike traditional typology classifications, these are not fixed. People can move within and out of these states. Everybody is a combination of these 4 states. Essentially, every man is a king, warrior, magician, and lover to some degree. I've drawn a little crown to represent the king, a little heart to represent the lover, a little sword to represent the warrior, and a little wand thing here to represent the magician. In the centre of the graph, we have a little circle representing your consciousness. The further we go out from the circle represents your unconsciousness, the deeper aspects. This is where the archetypes reside, within the unconscious. This is you, your consciousness. These are the energy sources or systems that you have connection and access to. As you get further out into the unconscious, you enter your shadow areas. If we take a look at the king, you see out here we have the king shadows all along this line. There are actually 3 states. The closest to the ego is the most mature state, which we would call the king in his fullness. On the shadow side, we have a state labelled inflated. This is also sometimes called overfunctioning. Robert Moore defined it as the archetype of the tyrant. On the negative side of the king shadow, we have a state labelled deflated or underfunctioning, which Robert Moore called the weakling. Some terms I would like to introduce, which I think are simpler and clearer for you to understand if you are learning about these for the first time, would be the 3 R's to describe the state of an archetype's energy. This would be the raw state. How an archetype's energy actually is in its pure, strongest form. This is when it dominates a man's personality. Repressed. How an archetype's energy shows up when it's shut out and not consciously integrated into your personality. And then the refined form. This is the ideal form, consciously integrated into a man's personality. These categories apply to all archetypes, and as we've mentioned, these are not fixed states. The closer to the centre you are, the more stable and balanced you are within this energy. The further out you go, it's more unstable, and people can frequently flip from one state to the other. That's why we call it unbalanced. When you take the 3 King Warrior Magician Lover test, I've dropped a link to it in the description. You don't want a score that comes out very low on one side or very high on the other side. It's about having balanced, regulated, refined forms of these powerful archetypal energies available to you when needed. Looking at the big picture, there's a dividing line going through the middle. An analogy we could make here is to the brain of the left and right hemispheres. The warrior and the magician are archetypes who are mainly concerned with taking action. The warrior is a go-getter and the magician is a problem solver. On the other side, we have the lover and a king, and we categorise these as relational energy, with a focus on community and relationships. When we put these 2 sides together, it gives you a picture of wholeness, a man able to take action in his life, but also care for others. This is the type of man you want to be. Now we'll look at the characteristics and traits of each form of each system. Let's begin with the raw king energy. Men with raw king energy are self-centered. They believe the world revolves around them. They're constantly late for people and events. Their viewpoints often come across as, because I say so, I know best, and you are beneath me and I take the lead and you follow, regardless of the actual situation or the reality of things. People with raw king energy are quite thin-skinned. You'll often hear responses like, "Don't criticise me," as if they're above judgments. The person with raw king energy thrives on power. That's where we get the tyrant name from. People who are narcissistic are exhibiting this form of energy. People with raw king energy are shaming. They will shame others because when you put the other people down, it elevates you, it puts you on a throne. That's how they operate. They're also very threatening because they feel threatened themselves. There's an element of paranoia, and they have reason to feel this way because their behaviour makes many enemies. They're hostile towards others because they themselves feel threatened. On the repressed side, a man with deflated king energy is very unsure of himself. You often hear things like, whatever you say when it comes to ideas, maybe in the workplace. They don't want to take the lead. You'll often hear them say, it's not my fault, because they don't believe they hold any power or responsibility. They never offer to take up responsibility at work or home. They avoid conflict, which is also related to the warrior archetype, but in this context, the king is the man who can hold a group of people together, but he doesn't want conflict because conflict implies or leads to some form of responsibility. They're conflict avoidant and overly codependent. They look to others for responsibility and leadership, giving up their power. This archetype is sometimes called the abdicator of the throne. Now, the man with a refined form of this energy, or balanced king energy, experiences a lot of harmony. He holds a group together, listens to all their needs, takes everything into account, and decides on the best course of action. Being decisive is key. He's stable in himself and with others. He is centered and calm. A sure sign that a man is not in this area of king energy is if he's experiencing a lot of anxiety a lot of the time. The balanced king affirms himself and others, and blesses others. This is the mature man who shows younger men the way. He recognises people's achievements and he blesses them. He is humble and wise. These categories together paint a picture of mature king energy within a man. Robert Moore in the 90s said that Donald Trump had a lot of raw king energy, which caused debate in the comments of a recent video I posted. Trump thrives on power and has narcissistic traits, that's for sure, but he also constantly praises things as the best, the greatest, the biggest, and he showers people on his good side with praise. That's a form of affirming and blessing. That's what he's trying to do when he's talking in this way. No one can argue that he's centered and calm. He does keep his composure a lot of the time. That has to be admitted. Just look at his reaction after the assassination attempt for proof of that. One important point is that it's better for someone to have access to this energy rather than not having it at all. That's a better state of affairs to be in. Okay, now let's look at the lover energy. In its raw state, lover energy in a man will manifest as feelings that are out of control. If a man is coming from lover energy in this sector, the raw form, he will often be repulsive to many partners because his feelings are out of control. That's when you get into neediness, coming across as needy. You will hear a man with this type of energy saying, I just can't get enough. That could be of anything, a person, an experience, or substance abuse like drugs, alcohol, or gambling. You will hear him say things like, I feel like I'm going crazy. That's because he is not in control of his feelings. And this lover energy is so powerful that it will destroy men. It has destroyed many men. Think of all the musicians that died young of drug overdoses or some sort of incident. That is a result of too much unregulated lover energy. The lover in its raw state is addicted to pleasure. Robert Moore often describes this state of the lover as just wanting to put its tongue in anything. The lover hates boundaries. I think this is why you'll find a lot, maybe in a gay community, you have such a blend of breaking of what are traditional boundaries and taboos, because these are people who are flooded with this lover energy. But it also speaks to the fact that the lover is deeply promiscuous and does not understand or believe in having one person to satisfy its needs. The raw lover is always restless, it's always seeking, and again that can be for its next high, its next sexual conquest. It's never satisfied. The Rolling Stones song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, is testament to this form of the lover. Now, if we look at the repressed lover, this is the man who's emotionally depressed. It's often called the impotent archetype. Nothing excites me, I'm not a very social person. He feels no enthusiasm for anything, he feels numb, he lacks aliveness. He can't identify his own feelings and he has a chronic distrust of others. We can just call this the depressed man. People fall into this form of the energy after they get their hearts broken. If you get your heart broken so many times, you will find you will fall into this form of energy and you will probably get stuck. You should really try and get out of it. And maybe to numb out how you feel, you will end up becoming an addict, reverting to the raw state, taking drink, drugs, just something to numb the pain that you feel here. The lover energy is very sensitive to pain. When you feel pleasure, it automatically goes that you've got the risk of pain to follow. They're the two distinctions, and that's all tied up in this lover energy. Now, if we look at lover energy, when it's regulated in its balanced form, the lover in his fullness, the man is alive, he is playful, he's not serious or getting down to business. That's the warrior archetype that we will look at next. The lover is all about play and enjoying life. In its highest form, he experiences a lot of joy. He's very sensual, he's very sexual, and he's very passionate. He can be passionate about many things. This is not just sex. As Robert Moore describes in one of his videos, a man can be passionate about collecting stamps. The lover feels emotions deeply. That's emotions of his own and others. He's very empathetic. He's very sensitive. That's to his own feelings and those of others. He is artistic and creative. All your musicians, all your favourites that you listen to, all that you get your music from, they're all operating out of this quadrant. The lover in his fullness is compassionate and he is spiritual. Now, a good example of a man to talk about with a lot of this energy is Russell Brand. Russell Brand was once a drug addict and a sex addict. He's very open about this, and it's obviously got him in some legal trouble recently. Certainly over his behaviours in the past, whatever the truth is there. But he definitely was dominated by this quadrant, and you can see he's become a lot more in his videos these days. He's taken on a lot more of a spiritual persona. He's very playful, he always has been. So I would say Russell Brand is an example of a man who has definitely moved from raw lover energy to a more refined and mature form of lover energy. Now let's look at the warrior. The warrior in its raw form is often called a sadist by Robert Moore. The warrior is there to go on the offensive. The man with a lot of raw warrior energy will often say things like, I want to do something, I want to achieve something. You will often hear them say, I'm so fucking angry. That's because they've got so much aggression. Aggression is obviously a big part of the warrior archetype. Regulating this aggression is key. But the raw warrior will be bursting with aggression and ready to flip at the slightest provocation. The raw warrior is abusive because any perceived threats or encroachments will be justifications to attack, which often results in violence. The raw warrior is compulsive. He's like the Terminator. When he acquires a target, he has to go for it. Workaholics fall into this form of warrior energy. They don't stop until they're defeated, often by their own burnout, and they view the world as a huge battlefield. There is no room for the lover when you're on this aspect of warrior energy. The warrior sets impossibly high standards for himself and for others. The bully is flooded with raw warrior energy, and the man who often explodes in rage, that's the raw warrior just taking the mask off and coming out for all to see. Now, we flip over to the deflated side of the warrior energy, what Robert Moore has called the masochist. This is the repressed warrior within a man. The man with repressed warrior energy has no form of self-protection. He's basically the doormat. He gets walked all over in his life, but you'll hear him say things like, I never get what I want, or I just can't get things done. He's lacking the drive that you'll find in the raw form of the warrior. This is the nice guy who finishes last. He is always kind to others to the point of being masochistic and detrimental to himself. So that means offering to do jobs for people, even though he doesn't really have the capacity to do them. He doesn't know when to quit. This applies to jobs or relationships. When the signs are there that it's time to get out and move on, he will just hang in there masochistically. The repressed warrior is always passive-aggressive. The aggression doesn't go away, it just changes its form. He's easily pushed around. The repressed warrior is just not going to fight back. What he is going to do is he's going to bottle it all up until it flips from the deflated state to the raw state, and you will see an explosion of rage that will shock everybody who sees it. Let's look at the warrior in his balanced, refined state. The man with this form of warrior energy is loyal. That can be to a cause or a person. This is the form that balances out the promiscuous lover because it's only the warrior that can understand fidelity and not cheat in a relationship. This form of the warrior is brave, so he will speak out even when it's maybe just him against the crowd with opposing views. He is alert, so he is always on watch because he's a protector in this form. He is looking out for threats, he sets boundaries both for himself and others. He finishes at a certain time every day so he doesn't become burnt out, and he sets boundaries on others. He will say no to requests, whereas the repressed warrior will not. The warrior in his fullness is focused and disciplined. He is on a mission, but the mission must serve a higher cause. He does what's necessary, but no more. Again, he's not a workaholic. He will operate within the parameters that he has set. He is decisive and discerning. This means he will assess and cut out the things that are not healthy for him, the people and the things that are toxic to him. He has integrity and he is clean. This is where the concept of the knight and chivalry and all these positive mythological images come from. An example of a man who is operating from a lot of this quadrant is the boxer Tyson Fury. I really like him because of his journey. Everyone witnessed it who was into boxing at the time. This journey saw him move from his raw warrior energy, where he was very abusive and bullying to his opponents. But in the boxing industry, trash talk is a common thing. But after becoming world champion, he fell into a deep depression and was contemplating suicide. He basically turned a lot of this raw aggression in on himself. He became depressed, became massively overweight. He quit boxing, and everybody thought he was finished and we would never see him in a boxing ring again. But he managed to pull himself back into this refined form of warrior energy. He became very focused and disciplined, very clean. He was taking drugs and drinking a lot, and he cut all that out. And he gave himself a mission to regain the world championship. During his comeback fight, he looked like he was knocked out and finished. But he got up off the canvas to fight back for a draw, showing immense bravery and fortitude. For all these reasons, he won back a lot of the hearts and minds of the boxing fans in the world. Now let's look at the magician energy quadrant. In its raw form, Robert Moore labelled this archetype the detached manipulator. This is the man who is disconnected from living. He is very isolated and solitary in nature. You'll often hear him say things like, I'm toxic, I'm dark. You should always listen to people when they tell you what they are like. You will often hear them talking about how something bad will happen. This stems from childhood experiences of bad things, leading to a heightened sensitivity to negative things in general. They are overly critical and will find fault in everything, making them perfectionists. The man with raw magician energy often suffers from analysis paralysis. He sees a million possibilities but can't decide on one course of action due to the lack of balance from the other quadrants, the king and warrior notably. He uses knowledge as a weapon. The magician in his raw form is very knowledgeable and learned, but only concerned with how that can benefit himself. He withholds truth as a way of gaining power and advantage over others. In its repressed form, what Robert Moore labels the denying innocent one, you'll find a man who is very evasive and slippery. He'll say things like, I didn't know that was supposed to be done, or I'm always getting it wrong. This is denial of his ability to solve problems, a key aspect of magician energy. He avoids risks and judgments, hides the truth, and is an expert at slyly blocking others. He feigns naivety to avoid facing problems. In its refined, balanced form, men with magician energy are insightful problem solvers, teachers, and healers. They're detached observers interested in the world. They're transformational of themselves and others. In traditional cultures, this would be the shaman or ritual elder guiding young men from boyhood to manhood. The regulated magician is contemplative, an alchemist trying to solve problems or bring new things into the world, and an initiator providing solutions for others. Charles Manson is an example of the dark manipulator aspect, while Jordan Peterson, especially in 2016, exemplified more positive aspects of the magician energy, coming out as a teacher and a healer for many men. Elon Musk is seen as someone who dips in and out of various aspects of this magician energy. The good news is that these states are not fixed, as we've mentioned. You can move towards the centre in all 4 states through shadow work, which involves bringing unconscious character traits into your consciousness to refine that form of energy. This allows you to transform from being self-centered or unsure of yourself to being confident and generous towards others. All 4 of these systems can be worked on using the method of shadow work, which is a key exercise. The diagram is also split into 2 hemispheres, and the exercises to rebuild or build function in these quadrants require different approaches. The warrior and the magician fall within the action side of the hemisphere, meaning you can work on many of these aspects by yourself. For the warrior, rage can be tempered by physical activities like hitting a punch bag or joining a martial arts club. This helps regulate that raw warrior energy, bringing it more into the centre and into your consciousness, refining it in the process. And then if you lack access to warrior energy, if you're repressed, then engaging in combat sports can draw it out and back into the centre, again into your consciousness. The magician, being a solitary part of the psyche, can be worked on through reading and studying. By reading books and gaining knowledge, finding truths and becoming aware of things, the magician can then share and communicate this knowledge to help others. This process defines the magician energy. On the other side, the lover and the king fall within the relational hemisphere, which is harder to work on alone. The lover energy requires forming relationships and not being solitary. This involves moderating yourself to reduce the impacts of addictive tendencies and avoid falling into depression, instead becoming more alive. A key part of refining the lover energy is what Joseph Campbell calls finding your bliss, discovering what makes you happiest and doing more of it. For the king energy, it's important to note that you can't be a king of a kingdom of one. To access this refined form of king energy, you need to relate with others within your kingdom, whether they're work colleagues, friends, or family. A good practice to help refine your king energy is joining a men's group. These sessions involve men gathering to hold space for each other, discussing life issues, sharing experiences, and offering advice and encouragement. It's akin to a king's council and must be done with other men. If you recognise yourself in any of these shadow forms or want to know where you stand, there's a free test available. Designed by psychologist Nick Morey, this 5-minute test will indicate which part of your psyche is dominating your personality within this diagram. We also have courses which provide shadow work exercises for each of these archetypes. These courses offer a way to create an action plan so you can work on the action side, the magician and the warrior, but also give you ideas on how to start tapping into the relational side of the lover and the king. This approach allows you to develop all aspects of your psyche, balancing both the action-oriented and relational energies within yourself. Links to the courses are in the description below. So that's it, a quick guide to the masculine psyche to explain where and why you're finding yourself fucking up in life. And now you know how you can start to fix it.
Discover your true masculine power through the king, warrior, magician, and lover archetypes, energies that have defined strong men for millennia. In just 5 minutes, this free test reveals which of your masculine energies are in balance and which need work. The result? Clear direction for your personal development and masculine empowerment. Thousands of men have gained insights to reshape their lives. Why not you? Take the Masculine Energy Indicator test now at masculinetest.com.